What happens when a duchess with a reputation for controlling the narrative walks right back into the spotlight she once stormed out of? And what happens when the host she clashed with, a Grammy-winning powerhouse known for grace, honesty, and zero tolerance for games, decides she won't let history repeat itself? This wasn't just a rematch, this was a reckoning. A second chance turned into a second explosion. Welcome to the day Meghan Markle returned to the Jennifer Hudson Show, and once again, walked straight into the fire. The atmosphere inside the Jennifer Hudson Show studio crackled with anticipation. The kind that isn't excitement, but something tighter, sharper. Producers exchanged glances as they moved across the set, adjusting microphones, smoothing cushions, checking every camera angle twice. Audience members whispered among themselves, holding their applause cards like shields. Everyone remembered last time. Jennifer Hudson's radiant voice echoed from backstage, grounding the room like a familiar melody. "Welcome back, everybody," she sang, stepping out with her signature exuberance. But behind that glow was steel, the kind forged from experience. "Today," Jennifer continued, smiling broadly, "we're welcoming someone who has been at the center of global conversations. She's returning to the show, and we hope today brings clarity, understanding, and maybe even healing. Please welcome Meghan Markle." The applause was warm but cautious, like clapping with one eye open. Meghan entered the stage with a glide that suggested royalty even without a crown. She wore a sleek white dress, posture as straight as a ruler. Her smile was thin, practiced, almost rehearsed. Jennifer stood to greet her, arms open but not too open this time. "Meghan, welcome back." "Thank you," Meghan replied, her voice silky but cool. "I appreciate the invitation." The word invitation landed strangely, like she was doing the show a favor by accepting it. They took their seats. Jennifer crossed her legs, smoothing her dress, breathing subtly through her nose, preparing. The audience braced themselves without meaning to. Jennifer started softly. "So, Meghan, a lot has happened since the last time you were here. New projects, new ventures, and a lot of public conversations about your work. How are you feeling stepping back into the spotlight today?" Meghan's smile hardened at the edges. "Well, Jennifer, I never left the spotlight. People just keep trying to define whether I'm in it or not. It's cute." A wave of uncomfortable laughter rippled through the audience. Jennifer blinked, then nodded graciously. "Okay, let me rephrase. Emotionally, mentally, how have you been since navigating everything going on?" Meghan's eyes narrowed, just a touch. "I don't really measure my well-being based on what the world thinks is going on, Jennifer. I'm grounded, poised, evolving. I live on a level that isn't dictated by drama." Jennifer tilted her head. "Well, I think a lot of viewers were hoping to hear how you are doing, personally." Meghan crossed her arms loosely, a defensive stance disguised as elegance. "I'm thriving, though I find it interesting that every time I speak, people want to turn it into some kind of national headline. It's almost obsessive." Jennifer inhaled slowly, keeping calm. "All right, let's shift a bit," she said smoothly. "You've recently launched a new nonprofit initiative aimed at empowering women. Tell us about what inspired that." Meghan softened for half a second, then her expression sharpened with superiority. "What inspired it? Well, competence, I guess, vision. A level of awareness not everyone has. I often feel like people want me to explain things that should be self-evident." Jennifer held her smile, but her eyes stiffened. "I think people just want to understand your mission, Meghan." "And sometimes," Meghan replied crisply, "people should just listen instead of demanding explanations." A few audience members exchanged glances. Jennifer leaned back slightly, still poised. "Well, let's talk specifics. What's the first project your nonprofit is tackling?" Meghan tapped her nails lightly on the armrest. "I'd prefer not to reveal too much. People tend to criticize things before they're ready to understand them." "You mean," Jennifer said slowly, "you don't want feedback before launch?" Meghan gave a small laugh, icy, dismissive. "I don't need feedback. I need space." Tension pulsed through the studio lights. Jennifer, unshaken, reshuffled her question cards as though choosing a new approach. "All right," she said warmly. "Let's talk family. How are Harry and the kids doing?" Meghan's eyes flashed like a blade catching light. "Fine, wonderful. Though I think it's a little repetitive that people always want updates on my marriage before anything else. Isn't that a bit reductive?" Jennifer's smile tightened. Audience whispering intensified. Meghan continued, unaware or uncaring. "But I get it. People are fascinated. They always will be. It's the burden of being memorable." Jennifer folded her hands, breathing evenly. "Well," she said gently, "we'll get into more topics after the break. Stay with us, everybody." The audience clapped, but not naturally. It sounded forced, uncertain, like everyone felt the temperature dropping degree by degree. This was only the beginning. The moment the cameras blinked back to life, the studio felt different, heavier, tighter. The applause sign lit up, but the audience clapped cautiously, unsure whether they were welcoming a conversation or bracing for a collision. Jennifer Hudson's smile returned, polished and professional, but the strain beneath it was unmistakable. She glanced toward Meghan, who sat immaculate and unmoved, legs crossed at a perfect angle, hands folded with an air of superiority that seemed rehearsed. "Welcome back," Jennifer said, her tone warm but deliberately controlled. "We're here with Meghan Markle, discussing her work, her journey, and everything in between." Meghan gave a tiny nod, the kind that said, "Yes, continue," as if she were the host instead. Jennifer inhaled. "Meghan, I want to revisit something you mentioned earlier. You said people misunderstand your intentions or don't grasp the level you're operating on. Could you help clarify what you mean by that?" Meghan tilted her chin upward, her voice velvet but sharp. "Well, Jennifer, some people think they understand me because they read headlines. But headlines," she paused, letting her gaze sweep across the audience, "are written for the lowest common denominator. Not everyone can comprehend nuance." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jennifer's eyebrows lifted. "Are you saying the public can't understand you?" "I'm saying," Meghan replied coolly, "that I've outgrown the public's expectations." Jennifer's smile tightened for half a second, just long enough for the camera to catch it. "Let's talk about something concrete," Jennifer continued. "You recently hired a new team for your foundation, some very high-profile names from Hollywood. What inspired those choices?" Meghan lifted one shoulder in a polished shrug. "Excellence attracts excellence. I don't surround myself with mediocrity." Jennifer blinked, surprised by the bluntness. "I understand wanting strong collaborators, but some have said your leadership style can be, how should I put it, intense. What would you say to that?" Meghan leaned back, crossing her arms ever so slightly. "Strong women are always called intense. If I were a man, people would call me decisive, visionary, assertive. But because I'm Meghan Markle, suddenly ambition is a problem." Jennifer gently shook her head. "No one is questioning ambition, Meghan. But some former staff members, people who worked closely with you, have said you're difficult to work with. That communication can feel—" Meghan cut in sharply. "Excuse me? Are we really doing this?" Jennifer kept her tone calm. "I'm giving you the space to respond directly." Meghan scoffed, loud enough for the mic. "Those people didn't understand my standards, and if they couldn't keep up, that's hardly my fault." The audience shifted in their seats, the air thickening by the second. Jennifer tried a softer angle. "All right, I hear you. Let's talk about motherhood. So many women in our audience respect how open you've been about raising your children. What's one thing motherhood has taught you about yourself?" For a moment, Meghan's expression softened, then hardened even more. "Motherhood has taught me," she began, "that my children deserve better than the world gave me, better than the palace gave me, better than the media gives me, better than this." Jennifer paused, the meaning not lost on her. "This?" she echoed quietly. "Are you referring to interviews or—" "Scrutiny," Meghan said sharply. "Dissection. People feeling entitled to my emotions, my story, my children. And honestly, Jennifer, I thought you of all people would understand that." Jennifer sat up straighter. "I absolutely understand wanting to protect your kids. I'm a mother too. But Meghan, you're here, on a talk show, sharing your story. Our viewers care. They want to hear from you." "Care?" Meghan repeated with an icy laugh. "People care as long as I play the character they want. The second I deviate, I become difficult, arrogant, ungrateful. It's boring." Jennifer exhaled slowly, feeling the tension coil tighter around the room. "Let's shift to something different," she said, her voice steady. "Your upcoming documentary. It's been described as your most personal project yet. What makes it different from the ones you've done before?" Meghan pursed her lips. "It's different because I'm finally telling the truth without filters, without pressure, without being controlled by producers who don't understand me." Jennifer's eyes flickered. "There were reports that you clashed with your previous producers." Meghan's tone sharpened instantly. "Reports, rumors, lies. I don't clash. I elevate. If people can't match my vision, it's not a clash. It's a boundary." Jennifer glanced at the audience, who were staring wide-eyed. She tried one more graceful pivot. "Earlier you mentioned feeling misunderstood in the UK. Do you feel more understood here in the United States?" Meghan gave a thin smile, cold, confident, cutting. "I feel tolerated, which is an improvement, but still not at the level I deserve." Jennifer blinked twice, her patience bending visibly. "I'm sure many people appreciate your honesty." "Honesty," Meghan repeated, leaning forward. "That's what this is? I'm being honest, Jennifer. If people can't handle it, that's their weakness, not mine." A hush fell across the room. Somewhere backstage, a producer froze mid-step. Jennifer inhaled deeply, filling her chest with a quiet resolve. "Well," she said softly, her voice lined with warning, "we're certainly having an honest conversation today." Meghan smirked. "You're welcome." Jennifer's smile faded almost completely now, replaced with calm determination. This was getting close, very close to the point of no return, and everyone in the studio felt it. By the time the next segment began, the studio felt less like a daytime talk show and more like a pressure cooker. The band played its cheerful transition music, but it skimmed over the surface of a room that had gone almost silent underneath. Jennifer Hudson turned back to the camera, smile restored, but this time it looked more like armor than warmth. "Welcome back," she said evenly. "We're here with Meghan Markle, talking about life, work, and the stories behind the headlines." The applause light flashed. The audience clapped, but the rhythm was uneven, cautious. Meghan sat motionless, posture immaculate, chin high. If she sensed the discomfort in the room, she didn't show it. Instead, she gave a small, polished smile that never touched her eyes. Jennifer shifted in her chair, cards in hand. "Meghan, I want to ask you something a lot of people wonder about," she began carefully. "You talk a lot about your truth, your perspective. Do you ever feel any responsibility for how your words affect the people you talk about? Your family, the royal institution, even the media?" Meghan's gaze hardened instantly. "My responsibility," she replied crisply, "is to myself and my children, not to people who hurt me or benefited from my pain. If some individuals are uncomfortable with my truth, they should have behaved better in the first place." The audience murmured again. Jennifer didn't look away. "I get that pain makes people want to speak out," she said gently. "But when your words go out to millions of people, they shape how the world sees those you talk about. Do you ever worry that you might be doing to them what you say the press did to you?" Meghan let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Are you really comparing me to the tabloid press?" "I'm asking about impact," Jennifer replied, voice calm. Meghan tilted her head, as if puzzled that the question even needed to be asked. "No, I don't lose sleep over how perpetrators feel about being held accountable." Jennifer nodded slowly, but there was a flicker of frustration behind her eyes now. "All right," she said, "let's talk specifics. You've spoken about your father, your half-sister, your in-laws, members of the royal family. Some of them say you've cut off contact completely, that they only hear about you through interviews and projects. Do you see any room for reconciliation?" Meghan's jaw clenched. "Why is it that the person who sets a boundary is always the one questioned?" She shot back. "People love to ask why I don't call them, not why they drove me away in the first place." "I understand that," Jennifer said. "But is there any part of you that wonders how your children will feel one day, hearing you speak about their grandparents, their uncle, their family this way?" The question landed like a stone. Meghan's eyes flashed. "My children will be grateful," she answered, voice sharpening, "that I protected them from toxicity. I refuse to romanticize people just because we share DNA or a last name that impresses strangers." The audience was caught between fascination and discomfort. Jennifer took a breath, choosing her next move carefully. "You've used the word toxic a lot when talking about institutions, people, the media," she observed. "Do you think there's any chance that sometimes, without realizing it, you might also contribute to that toxicity?" Meghan stared at her, stunned for a fraction of a second, then let out a scoff. "Wow," she said slowly. "There it is, the maybe you're the problem angle. I wondered how long it would take." Jennifer held up a hand, staying calm. "I'm not saying you're the problem. I'm saying relationships are complicated, stories are complicated, and you've been at the center of a lot of conflict. I think it's fair to ask what part of that you might own." Meghan's voice dropped, cold and controlled. "Jennifer, I came here to talk about my work and my journey, not to sit in some pseudo-therapy session where I'm blamed for protecting myself." Jennifer's smile thinned. "I hear you," she said. "But this is also about being real. Our viewers aren't naive. They've watched all the specials, read the headlines, seen the interviews. When the story keeps circling back to the same drama, they're going to ask why." Meghan's lips curled into a tight smirk. "Maybe because the media can't stand the idea of a woman refusing to be quiet. Maybe because people like you keep recycling the same tired questions instead of acknowledging that I've moved on." Jennifer's eyes flashed now, just for a second. "Have you?" she asked clearly. "Have you truly moved on?" The studio went still. Meghan's nostrils flared. "Excuse me? You say you've moved on?" Jennifer continued, voice firm but not raised. "But we're here, once again, talking about the palace, the press, the people who wronged you. You bring them up in every project, every conversation. So, I'm asking, not as a critic, but as a woman, have you actually healed from it? Or are you still stuck in it without realizing?" Murmurs rolled through the audience like a low wave. For the first time, Meghan seemed genuinely rattled, her fingers tightened around the armrest. "That's a very presumptuous question," she replied, her tone dripping with contempt. "And frankly, a little insulting. You don't know my inner world, Jennifer." "I'm not claiming to," Jennifer said quietly. "But you put your story in the public arena over and over. And when someone reflects back what they see, you call it an attack." Meghan leaned forward, eyes blazing. "What I see," she snapped, "is another host trying to turn me into a villain because it makes for good television. You invite me on, praise my work, and then pivot into the same judgmental narrative. It's predictable, and frankly, beneath you." A collective "oh" rolled through the crowd. Jennifer's posture changed, small but unmistakable. Her shoulders squared. The kindness stayed, but something else slid into place. Resolve. "You're right about one thing," she said softly, her voice carrying more gravity than volume. "It is predictable. Because every time you're asked a real question on any platform, this is what happens. Deflection, contempt. Everyone else is the problem." Meghan's face flushed. "You're twisting my words." "I'm repeating them," Jennifer replied. The tension stretched so tight, it felt like the lights themselves might crack. A producer offstage made a subtle circular motion with his hand. Stretch the segment. Jennifer didn't take her eyes off Meghan. "Let me ask you this," she continued. "If you could go 1 year, just one, without mentioning the royal family, the media, or your critics, what would you talk about?" The question hit harder than a shout. Meghan blinked. For a split second, there was nothing behind her eyes but anger, and something that almost looked like panic. Then the wall slammed back into place. "I would talk about my impact," she answered sharply. "My projects, my influence, things that matter. But the world doesn't let me. People keep dragging me back to the past because they're obsessed with drama." Jennifer nodded slowly, never breaking eye contact. "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe it's because that's the only part you've ever really let them see." The audience reacted audibly now. Gasps, whispers, nervous laughter. Meghan's expression hardened into icy fury. "You know what, Jennifer?" she said, voice low, dangerous. "If this is the angle you planned, painting me as some self-obsessed, bitter woman, you should have just said that in the emails and saved us both the time." Jennifer's patience stretched to its absolute limit, gave the faintest audible snap in her next inhale. "We're going to take a quick break," she told the camera, her voice calm but loaded. "And when we come back, we're going to decide whether this conversation can move forward in good faith or not." The audience burst into a mix of applause and disbelief. The band kicked in, but the music couldn't cover one unmistakable truth. Jennifer Hudson was done bending, and Meghan Markle was not used to hearing the word no. The real collision was now inevitable, and it was coming after the break. When the show returned from the break, the atmosphere was nothing short of electric. The band's upbeat transition music clashed awkwardly with the simmering tension still hanging in the air. Cameras glided back into place. Audience members whispered to each other, sensing they were moments away from witnessing daytime TV history. Jennifer Hudson sat poised, hands folded, her expression calm but unmistakably firm. This was not the warm, easygoing host viewers were used to. This was a woman who had reached the limit of her grace. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, sat ramrod straight, chin raised, jaw clenched so tightly the muscles trembled. She had perfected composure for years, but even through the cameras, cracks were beginning to show. Jennifer inhaled slowly, then spoke in a measured voice. "Before the break," she began, "we were having a conversation that felt tense. And I want to make sure we continue in a way that's respectful. To you, to me, and to everyone watching." Meghan smirked, a cold, dismissive curve of the lips. "Well, respect goes both ways, doesn't it?" Jennifer nodded. "Yes, it does." A murmur rolled through the audience. Jennifer set her cards aside, the universal signal that she was about to drop the script and speak from the heart. "Meghan," she said softly but clearly, "I invited you here because I believed we could have an honest conversation. But every question I've asked, questions about your work, your growth, your relationships, you've treated as an attack." Meghan's eyebrows shot up. "Because they were attacks, thinly veiled, but attacks nonetheless." Jennifer took a breath, steadying herself. "No, they were attempts to understand you better. But instead of engaging, you've responded with hostility, sarcasm, and blame." Meghan scoffed, crossing her arms defensively. "I speak my truth. I don't sugarcoat things to make the world comfortable." "There's a difference," Jennifer replied, her tone sharpening, "between speaking your truth and shutting down every question you don't like." The audience erupted into light applause. Meghan blinked, stunned for a moment, then leaned forward, voice icy. "So, now I'm being scolded on national TV because I don't perform the way you want me to?" Jennifer's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in a calm, unshakable resolve. "No," she said, "but you're treating this show, my show, like it's a platform for you to lecture everyone and dismiss everything. That's not how conversations work." Meghan's lips parted, offended. "Are you saying I'm the problem?" Jennifer didn't flinch. "I'm saying this conversation hasn't been a conversation at all, because you won't allow it to be." A long, heavy silence followed. Meghan's stare sharpened into something venomous. "Wow, I didn't expect to be attacked by you, Jennifer. I thought you stood for women supporting women." The moment the words left her mouth, Jennifer's expression changed completely. Her warmth evaporated, replaced by a crystalline clarity. "Supporting women," Jennifer said slowly, "doesn't mean accepting disrespect. It doesn't mean letting someone walk all over your platform or your audience. And it doesn't mean pretending someone is a victim when they're hurting everyone around them." The audience gasped. Meghan looked blindsided, as if the air had been knocked out of her chest. "You're twisting!" "Everything," she said, voice shaking with frustration. "Everything I say, you weaponize it." Jennifer leaned back, shaking her head gently, almost sadly. "No, Meghan. You came here ready for a fight, ready to be offended, ready to blame. And honest to God, I don't think you know how to talk to people anymore without assuming they're out to get you." Meghan's jaw dropped. That's ridiculous," Jennifer continued, voice quieter but firmer than ever. "I've tried, Meghan. I've tried every way I know how to keep this conversation healthy. But you're determined to find negativity in everything. You've dismissed your family, your critics, your colleagues, and now you're dismissing me." The audience fell silent, breath held. Jennifer straightened her posture, the final blow forming. "And I'm sorry," she said, shaking her head, "but I cannot continue an interview where the guest refuses to engage in good faith." Meghan froze. "What is that supposed to mean?" she whispered. Jennifer looked directly at her, not angry, not emotional, but resolute. "It means," she said clearly, "that this interview is over." The audience gasped, some cheering, others stunned. Meghan blinked rapidly, her face cycling through shock, indignation, fury, and disbelief. "You're ending the interview?" she demanded. "You're ending it?" "Yes," Jennifer replied calmly, "because this isn't healthy for you. It isn't healthy for me. And it certainly isn't what our viewers deserve." Meghan stood abruptly, voice rising in disbelief. "This is outrageous. You're making a huge mistake. You think people won't see through this? You think they don't know who the real villain is here?" Jennifer didn't rise. She simply looked up at Meghan with unshakable dignity. "I wish you well," she said softly. "But this isn't the place for whatever battle you came here to fight." Meghan scoffed, breath shaking, eyes glossy with anger. "You know what?" she snapped. "I don't need this show. I don't need this audience. And I certainly don't need your judgment." She unhooked her microphone, slamming it onto the chair, and stormed toward the edge of the stage. Cameras followed her as she disappeared behind the curtains. The audience sat in stunned silence. Jennifer inhaled deeply and faced the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said gracefully, "we'll be right back." The band began to play, but the tension in the room was still thick enough to touch. And that was the day Meghan Markle walked out of the Jennifer Hudson Show. Not because she was silenced, but because for the first time, someone refused to play along. So now I want to hear your thoughts. Was Jennifer right to end the interview, or did things spiral too far? Let me know in the comments. This debate is far from over. And before you go, drop a like if you enjoyed the story. Subscribe for more dramatic, high-energy narratives. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next explosive showdown.